Let's start then. Welcome to the front-end jungle. I'm very excited about this, and this is going, as you already know, to be the first seminar in our 6-seminar cycle, which is going to take place over next half a year. And my name is Ilva. I will organize this track, and I look forward to experience this together with you. Furthermore, I have the honor to open this track. I have to say you're quite a diverse audience. Some of you have visited seminars provided by various companies. Some have taken courses or even joined other Riga Tech Girls events. And today, one thing that we have to do is to get on the same page. As you know, this track is going to be about front-end. And the front-end is this huge environment. During our time together over these 6 months and 6 seminars, we're going to grasp only the top of the iceberg. This jungle is huge, and although it's impossible to cover everything over the time we will have together, we find it important to empower you with the right knowledge and tools you have to get a useful starting point. And please do not limit your learning only to these seminars. Those are only those, as I said, introduction points, because it's impossible to wrap everything up in 6 times 2 hours, our meetings. So today's agenda is, at first we will talk about what exactly front-end is and try to fit in somewhat of a box. Then we will talk about the so-called vanilla front-end, touch teamwork a bit, and then we will have the practical part and one slide on what to expect from our next sessions. So let's buckle up. What is front-end? Let's imagine any environment. It can be internet, your phone or your computer with or without internet, phone, smartwatch, and in those devices you can do stuff. You can sometimes call someone, you can read an article, browse a gallery, download the file, log in your account, change your password. And this logic doesn't actually happen on that screen. It happens elsewhere. You're just provided with this information. In the backend there can be some database. It can be there's some data handling happening. The term front-end refers to the user interface, while backend means the server, application, and database that works behind the scenes to deliver this information to the user. And the front-end, or so-called client-side, is basically the graphical user interface. Hence, a front-end developer is someone who creates this graphical user interface. It all started back in 95, 96. That's when internet as we know today became known. And it has emerged ever since. It started with HTML, then we had some CSS and JS eventually. The versions for these actually matter. We won't dig deeper in these now, but currently we have HTML5, CSS3, and for JS, JavaScript, it actually depends on whatever browser you're using, or if you're building mobile application, for example, with C++. It also depends on your environment and at what stage it is. So let's look further into those 3 levels of front-end, or 3 pillars of front-end. First of all, we have hypertext markup language, which is the structural part of your website or any other project. When you have a simple text article without any formatting, it's hard for you to read it, not to mention browser trying to format it or Google trying to index it. There's no way to tell the structure apart, and HTML is this approach to structurize the text. This very simple code example, we have this title within the head and the body, and it all is made of tags. Tag consists of those triangle brackets with the name of the tag, and it has opening and closing tags. Yes, and although you could have some attributes here and there, this is basically what it is. And on a funny note, part of the community actually argues this is not a programming language. Then we have yet another language not considered a programming one. Welcome to the front end. Cascade style sheets specify how particular HTML elements look. You specify element selectors. In this case, it's a class selector, and then add style properties to it. This is some fancy spacing called padding. Then for text, we can have color, font, or font size. Or if you have a header, you can say you want it with big letters, uppercase, and pink. And last but not the least, the good part, this is where we celebrate, because JavaScript has some functionality, some logic, coding, and this saves us from not being developers. And in front end usually is the whole behavior part. For example, pop-up shows after you click on a button. All right. You got it, 3 pillars, the very basics that everything else is built upon, and covered. It's not that simple. There are endless things that are actually there: user interface, browser compatibility, testing, scalability, accessibility, how well it performs, animations, optimization, search engine, architecture. There are many technologies emerging now as we're speaking, and there's even this joke of having new popular tool each week. It's a joke, but it's somewhat true. For example, in 2010, I think, suddenly CoffeeScript became popular. And it was a year later when nobody was writing about it anymore. It was still active, but nobody really hyped about it anymore. Or for example, Vue.js, another tool you can build front end with. It didn't even exist a few years ago, and now it's quite popular for smaller businesses and smaller projects. Let's try to sum it up. Front-end developer is someone who develops, maintains, and improves the user interface of a project. Basically, you are to become a Swiss knife. You translate design into code. You have to know how to work with Photoshop, Figma, or other design platforms. And once designer gives you design, you translate it into a code in a manner that's reusable, perhaps even includes libraries that you build yourself. It performs well. It assures great user experience, such as using input validation, so that somebody doesn't have to fulfill the form again. And a big part of it is actually collaborating with other team members. It most likely is backend developer, but it might be other team members as well. You have to be aligned with backend developer all the time. Otherwise, there might be a feature you both can create, and you will spend double the time as you're doing it in front end, and backend developer will do it on his side as well. Or perhaps you haven't aligned and you expect somebody else to cover one or other part. Okay, any questions so far? Let's talk about actually setting up your work environment. What do you need as a developer? And I'm not mentioning specific environments, for example, developing with Android. but something that all front-enders need. And those are three things: editors or integrated development environments, file versioning systems, and a terminal. Let's dig deeper into it. First of all, you need editor. Editor is basically a software for editing code files. And there are various editors, and aside from the price, operation system, and default features, that nothing really differs because you do most of the things with plugins. There is this one called Atom, Sublime, Notepad++, VS Code, WebStorm. I like PHP Storm, but for today we will work with Sublime. And aside from editor, you also need a way how to version your file, your code. And this is where it gets a bit complicated, because what even is file versioning? Let's imagine you created a website for a client, and after a while he calls you and asks you to change some text. You do it, and initially everyone is happy, but within a day, the client calls you again and he says, hey, something went wrong yesterday. I know you only changed text, but something's not working anymore. And this file versioning system is something that will let you retrieve previous version of the code, and you can restore it, and only afterwards you can think about what exactly went wrong. Or if you have those projects you're working on with multiple people, you can avoid overwriting each other's changes. For example, my personal experience back in Delphi, there used to be this one older project which didn't use Git, which is file versioning system. It actually used it, but we didn't. We did it a bit different way for multiple reasons. And it would be actually quite common to make something, then go to the person who asked for this change and say, hey, I did this. You open the page and you see the change is not there because somebody else is working on the file and he didn't know you were working there as well. And last but not the least, terminal. Actually, front-end developer doesn't need to know the terminal. You can really make it through without it. On the other hand, there are some solid reasons to actually learn and use it. First of all, there are many tools who still require it. It can help you to work more efficiently with other developers. Sometimes it's just simpler to use command line interface. And it's a nice thing to put on your CV. It's not necessary, but it's a nice addition. And we won't need it for today. So you know how to set up your workplace. Perhaps some of you already have your workplace set up. Let's talk about you working in a team. If we look at this one workflow, it's just an example. Product owner might come to the project manager and say, hey, I really need this feature, which is also called milestone in such situations. And the project manager then assembles the team and resources. Designer starts working in a wireframe. He goes back and forth with the stakeholders. And stakeholders are everyone involved in the project. It can be users, product owners, marketing, anyone who has anything to say. They discuss it, approve it. Designer turns it into design, and stakeholders again that discuss it all and approves. And this is when the actual development starts. Team lead splits milestones into tasks, assigns tasks to various members. Everyone develops until it's done, and then you push it to live. Let's look more closely to that teamwork. front end and back end, if they have to work on the same feature, they can work at the same time and then try to slap it together afterwards. It might be that one of you is busy and does something else. For example, you create the user interface, but backend only starts working in it later, and then he integrates with whatever you created, or other way around, when backend developer has already made everything for you, and you have to think about how to integrate everything. There are also some other options. For example, somebody coming from BI or data analyst coming to you and saying, hey, for marketing purposes, we need this particular data to be tracked. Or going back and forward with design team or designer to do the design review, which means moving pixels left and right.
We are in the middle currently. And if some of you try to download the Sublime or this GitHub desktop client, then you can try to do it in the real time as me. But as I said, you have various experiences, and that's the reason why the main focus is to do it while you can ask questions, and then give you the recording so you can try it at home as well. So let's see, I will try to switch screens for better use. This one. A bit of reorganization. So we don't need this one. Okay, so you see my messy screen now, right? Nice. I can actually brag that this is a clean one. This is the only day that I don't have 60 tabs on. So I will close everything here, just so we have a blank page. We had 3 things that each developer needs. Text editor, I have installed Sublime. Creating your first file. How does it happen? Let's try creating a file, just so you know some basics. I will call my file test. With HTML, it actually is the file extension that you use, so browsers would understand it's HTML file. And I don't remember where did I save it. Let's save it on the desktop. Right there, here's my test file. I have this blank file, and if I try to write hi, and opening it in browser, I can see that it actually works. So first of all, we confirm that editor, it's enough to write front end. And we could actually try to write some code, but then I have to create a proper directory for it. So documents, I will go to my documents. I have a dedicated folder for code, and I will create a new folder there called first project. Alrighty. So with Sublime now I have this project. And I can once again try to write some code. If you remember, we had these tags that, for example, look like this. The idea is that for browser to actually understand your document, it's not enough just to write all this stuff. Sorry. Wow. This is live coding is always a bit of a mess. Bear with me. So let's go back to the test. So browser is sometimes not enough. It's actually most of the times not. It's not enough just with a plain text. So this file, as a base file, I will call it index.html. I'm saving it. Let's open my GitHub folder. First project and index. Yes, we have this test text. When you put it on live, Google, for example, won't be able to index it correctly, so it understands what the website is about. So you need to actually mark up. That's why the name HTML hypertext markup language. You need to mark up what this is and how it works. If you use Sublime, there's a shortcut for that. Just start writing an opening tag for HTML, press enter, and it already autofills some of the stuff. This is the basic minimum that you need. And just to replicate the very same page, you would write the same test within the body. Okay, and let's see that it's really the same document. Now I have the exclamation mark. So what is these things? First of all, we have specified that is an HTML document, because in web, you might as well have XML files. Someone who has worked with, for example, logistics and distribution might have seen XML files that look actually quite similar. It can be a JSON document. So modern browsers usually know how to interpret. Older browsers wouldn't. But it's still mandatory that you specify anyway what kind of document it is. Then I have document tags for the very document that I specified here. Opening and closing. I could zoom in. Let's put an enter. So beginning and end of my written document. Some browsers wouldn't be able to interpret what I write here. Then I have head. Document head is usually what tells browser what you need to load the page. It can be some basic style files, style rules. It can be title. What's title? Let's try it. Because some of you noticed, it changed the tab name. If I tried to share this, if it was an actual website and I tried to share this on, for example, Facebook, this would be the share message title. And information that goes here, it's not always the title, although you could have meta tags and say that, hey, I will be using Latvian languages. I need to be able to use those all weird characters that you wouldn't be able to use otherwise in other browsers. There's also some logic here. I think you might cover this with your mentors, or you might not. We might cover this in future sessions, but there are things like pre-connecting to a specific source to download files from external source faster. We can add script files here. We can add external style sheet files, everything. It's something that is not your website main content. Whereas in contrary body tag, is your main content, not even main content, any content that user should see. So body, all the main content goes here. Here. Yes, you see it. And within the body, actually we start write the real tags. Those who know already something of or something on front end have seen this H1. Any wild guess might eventually lead to understanding this is a heading. Try it out. Right, browser specific styling. It already did some work for me. Browser now understand this is the main page heading. But then sometimes websites actually have second level heading. Sorry, second level heading, it goes by number 2. You can see the browser already understands the content there. And then would be the third heading, another heading, second level heading, contacts. And actually you could put text in paragraph tags. You can see the difference between on form and text that just went in line next to each other versus paragraphs. See what happens if we put longer text there. All right, so it understands that you do not break paragraph within itself, but next paragraph there's some spacing in it, like it will be in a Google document. So the idea is clear, I hope so, how you write the basic HTML. You can actually use this very same file to write some CSS. And CSS, you can either write it in head or in body, it doesn't matter. Usually you would write CSS or style in the head only when it's just for this one page, otherwise it just redundantly extends the browser load time. So the style. For those who remember, we write a rule, select a rule what we are styling. And I could say we are styling H2 elements. Then I can write that I want those letters red. Okay, it worked. And I could also specify that, for example, some elements had a class. There are various attributes you can add to an element, but for the sake of CSS demonstration, let's just add a class that's named custom text size. And the naming doesn't really matter as long as it's one connected word. To refer a class, I add dot and figure those brackets, curly brackets, that's what they called. And just say text size. No, it's font size. Font size, nice. 24 pixels, whatever pixels are. And you can see it. What happened here? Ah, yes, it did actually happen. And in the end, you could also somewhere, either in the head or, for example, in the bottom of the body, you could add some script. And I will create a function that throws a pop-up. So now entering the page, I get hello world pop-up. So for some, it might look rocket science, but did everyone grasp it, what I just showed? So those three vanilla things. All right, then I see people nodding and I say that we are covered so far. So what first thing is editor, and we have confirmed it works and we can do all of those things. The second thing was command line interface. I'll be honest, I'm more of a command line, not command line interface, but file version system. Personally, I like command line. I like to write all those Git commands myself. So where is my GitHub? But we will use GitHub for today. So GitHub is one of those tools you can use for actually writing, not writing code, but tracking code changes. And if you have downloaded and installed it, you create this new repository, which is basically this project. And we will call it, or we could actually join the one that we used before, add local repository. Beautiful. I will add that one project I had. First project. There it is. All right. A bit of configuration. Voila, this is now a repository. Whatever happened under the hood, right? And once you have a few files in there, you can actually try to publish it. Let's see what happens. A lot of things happened. View on GitHub. Okay, we have this random landing page. We are not quite sure how that happened, but I can see my index file here and all the code that I wrote. And now let's create an actual project that we are not ashamed to show anyone else, right? So, the thing that I'm going to write is welcome to the front end. Let's remove everything else, including that alert for now. I have something. And then let's add some styling. I would like to style body of the document. I will put it black. So you have to know a few CSS rules to actually write this. But when you want to style something, you simply go on Google and say CSS for adding a background color, and that's everything you need. There's nothing more to it. So what happens now, I have this black background. I can add white color. About the color names, some are pretty intuitive. You can write pink, you can write purple, or you can go online and write color codes and actually get something fancy. For example, this thing here, this bluish thing. We can actually use this as our background color. A bit too light, I don't like it. Okay, let's try this one. It's really easy to spend endless hours there. Okay, this looks better, this I like. Then let's see how that head of the document works. And let's check it by adding a new font. You would change font, actually writing font family. And there are sans serif, serif, all those things you can also see in Google Documents, but let's use monospace, which means the text, each of the letters is the same width as other letters. And I don't like it. I don't like how it looks. I want to use web font. And I will search for Google Fonts because there's this service. Perhaps some of you know of it already. And I can go and choose any font I want. I still want the monospace font because it reminds a bit of code. It reminds the looks of a code. And what do I like here? Nothing in particular. What's this? Nothing. Okay, this looks fancy. And what do I see here? Select the style. All right, let's read this. To embed a font, copy the code into the head of your HTML. I copy the whole thing and add it to the head. We can actually see the pre-connect thing that I mentioned previously, but let's not cover why is it there and why it works. Nothing happened. Okay, let's go back and read some more. CSS rules to specify families. Okay, this we have seen. What's happening now? Nice. Then perhaps I want the base color actually not to be white, but I want it to be grayish, something. Okay, this is gray now. Instead, I want this heading 1 to be white. Okay, I like this better now. And then perhaps I don't like the spacing between the lines. There's a rule for that as well. We'll just put 1.3. Okay, still looks a little bit empty. How about we add the button? So to add the button, there are HTML tags for adding buttons. It looks like this. And for links, you may also use tag that's called A. It's short for anchor. So I have anchor tag, go big tech girls website. So nothing happens right now. Let's add the actual link. Big tech girls, copy website address, copy link. So adding ref attribute to the element. Okay, now it looks like link and it works. But it opens in the very same website, very same window. I don't want it. I don't want people to go away from this precious, beautiful website. That's why I will specify target. And you can either write _self for it to open in the same window or blank for it to open a new window. Let's see what happens now. Nice, it's a new tab now. Cool. But it looks bad. Like the link, it looks terrible. Let's try adding class. I will call it button link. So once again, to refer to a class, I add dot. I will say the color is pink. Nice, and I don't like that underline. Remove it by writing text decoration. No. Cool. So it works. It looks okay-ish. And if we create a new button here, let's add everything else as well. We can now reuse it. For example, we had 5 or 4 buttons in our page. Some of them would be button, and some would be button link. We can distinct and reuse the code now. Those 2 pages. All right, let's stick with the one we had. We have CSS, we have HTML. Let's add some JavaScript. Any ideas what we can animate? We can add pop-up. How about color change? That's fairly interesting, I guess. So as head is something the browser needs to load the website, to reduce the website loading speed or to not extend it, I will add script at the bottom. Otherwise, the browser would always need to load, like the head of the document is longer, so the web loads longer. And what can we do here? So first of all, we need to find the button, right? Let's write document get elements by class name. There's this function, there are a lot of them. I don't think it's really needed to dive deeper in them right now. You can Google it and read more about it. So get elements by class name, button link. And for me to actually understand what it is, let's try outputting it. So let's define variable button. And now I can console log it. What is this random console and where can I see it? You press inspect, Ctrl-Shift-E. For some other browsers, it might be elsewhere. And you get this, what this is. This lets you inspect the code. The very same thing we wrote there. It's visible here as well. Actually, it's really fancy because you can interact and see what your code does. For example, I can see what will happen if I will change font size to 50 pixels, 60, whatever. And it also has this console. What is this thing? Let's try console log hello world. Not sure how good you might now see it better. We have this hero world outputted. That's how we're sure the other thing that's here is this one. And we see its HTML collection or something. And it has multiple elements. If we look a bit deeper, that's because get elements by class name, we can see plural. There are multiple elements. If we talk about data structures, that's an array there. And let's not dip deeper into that right now. We just have this, let's take this first element. And now we see that the place which output the array of elements now outputs is only one element. And for this one element, let's do something with it. Button, class list, add text green. Or orange. Let's do better orange. Button, and the text orange. See what happens. Boom, it's orange. But that's not too fancy, right? Let's add some animation. I want it to flicker, to like blink, orange, pink, orange, pink, orange, pink. So two things. First of all, we need this logic, which will turn on and off this logic. So we have to see if button is orange, let's make it pink. And if it's pink, let's make it orange. I access buttons class list, button class list, and there's this function we can use to check whenever it has a class, for example, text orange. If it's a logical operator which allows you to do something based on condition, and this condition in our case is contains text orange. So if the button class list contains text orange, then I will remove it. In other cases, I will add it. Let's see that it works. So right now it's orange, but if I had the text orange to it, so you can see that I am adding additional class. I can easily do that. Just leave at least space between. So if it was orange at the beginning, so now it's pink. Cool. And there's function set timeout. And it's a function we can call, which requires two parameters or two variables, we can say it like that. What happens when happens? When is seconds, milliseconds. Let's see, after 1 second, I want something to happen. But as we see, we have a lot of logic here that isn't like something you can easily put here and divide with a comma. Then I will create a function. Okay. And this lets me input a lot of things there. Then just let's fix styling. See what happens. Okay, not sure if you see, but after 1 second, it went from orange to pink. Cool, but I want it to continuously blink. So instead of timeout, one way would be like var blink. Then we could like execute this over and over again. So each time it ends, it would call itself again. Or there's another easier way to do it. Set interval. Nice, it works. And actually, if we look back at the console log, we could have easily done it like this. Console log, start blink. At the end of this logical operation, we would say end blink or end switch, perhaps naming could be better. And then we could also see already orange. And needs orange. And then in console, we could easily debug. Like sometimes when you do something, you're not sure why something is not working. And with JavaScript using console, you can easily debug. Debug is the term you use for finding errors. So this is something we could have done previously. And last but not the least, let's change it to half a minute. Nice, there's a party and you're all invited. Cool. Okay. So I have this code and I want to put it in the trip repository. Let's go back to the, where was it? Oh, the GitLab, no, but GitHub is gone. Let's open it. Okay. And now we see all the magic and beauty of a file versioning system. It's a bit bright for me, but let's see. Yes, we can zoom it in. It shows us we have one changed file. It actually selects and shows all the changes. It shows which lines has been added. We can track everything. And to get it live for everybody to see at the repository, the only thing we need is to write commit message. Commit is the thing, like this batch of changes you're doing with this one thing. And let's call it add the actual design, add the actual user interface. Let's commit it and see on GitHub. Is it there? It's not there. Why it's not there? You have one local commit. Okay, we haven't pushed those changes. That's just file versioning naming. You do git pull, git push, if you work with Git. So let's see once again. "33 seconds ago, some changes have happened." All right, and the actual user interface. Beautiful. Let's do, we have a little bit of time. I want to do one more thing. So imagine I wanted to create another page. Let's go back to this one. I wanted to add, let's call it test. I will create new file and save it as test HTML. And I want it to have the same design, same functionality. So I copied everything and I will just update the data. The content, that is. This is a test page. Nothing to see here. And let's change target to self. it doesn't matter. We might even remove it. Let's write, this button doesn't do anything. How do we open it now? So perhaps I don't know where the folder was. I click on the folder and find, no, not this one. Open containing folder. Yes. So where is it? Somewhere in my mess of tabs. This one. Okay. This button doesn't do anything. We have the very same design. But the issue here, some of you already noticed, I copied everything. And we don't necessarily need to copy everything because that's the same style. It would be perfect if we could reuse it instead of doing it all over again. So let's add new file, which we'll call style CSS, and move all of the style there. Okay, we have that. And now we can link it here. Sublime already suggested me how to autofill everything, but we add a link, which relationship is style sheet. It's a text CSS file. We can just write the file name if it's in the same folder. You see the design still works. That's index, okay. Still works. Let's comment it out. Yeah, now it doesn't. And now we can replace the style in that other document as well with this. This was redundant. Test HTML. I swapped the style with this link. Beautiful, the file is now more readable. And I can actually do the very same thing with the script. I copy it out, I copy it, delete it from the both of files. I create this new file for script and paste everything there. So script JS, a file extension for all three files, is the language you use to write it, JavaScript. So by adding the file extension, it now has the right color scheme. We see that currently it doesn't work, but we can add script. And again, Sublime will help us to add it. And sources, script JS. And now it works again. Let's add it to the other file as well. Both files work. Last thing we need, just update those titles. Test page, I will name it, and Riga Tech Girls Demo. Another will be simply Riga Tech Girls Demo. Okay, so it didn't work. I did. I didn't save something? Yes, I didn't save. Someone wrote, first of all, that they are lost. I guess some people can do thumbs up now and say that they are lost as well, but that's why this is recorded. Yes, and another is commenting that JS is where it gets complicated. Indeed, especially if all you expected was to translate design into code and work only with HTML, CSS. And for those who think JS is hell and they don't want to do it ever in their lives, it's actually possible to be a front-end developer without writing JS. Yes, all the people can have a party now. But jokes aside, JavaScript is actually, and how it's evolving nowadays, is the reason why front-end more and more becomes this full stack thing. Actually, you can write backend with JavaScript now, so it's a really meaningful thing to learn. And for another comment, the question, is it a good practice to use all elements HTML, CSS, and JS in one file? Yes and no. So in this case, you already see that we split it, we can reuse it, it's good. On the other hand, if you have, for example, this first page and it's the same as all the others, but you need this small change, this one small change for this one button that's only located in this one page, in that case, it's better for you to write custom button and color red to do this, or even if those are 10 lines, instead of actually creating this other file that your server has to load in that page. And the same thing actually with JavaScript. That's only a small unique thing. Sometimes it's better to actually include it inline. But as everything, in everything, it depends. All right, so for people who are lost, the good thing is that I'm done coding. It doesn't get worse than this, at least for today. Let's add this to GitHub. I open the GitHub app. I want to add those changes to the web. And once again, we can see the beauty of it doing everything for us. It lets us review our changes. For example, oh, I do not want to add this to the repository, and I actually can commit a whole change, like everything I've changed except this, but I can even exclude the whole file. So I have a lot of improvements. I will let the comment message separate the design and JS from HTML. Good. You can push everything. And those are only the basics. We can actually work on separate files and we can work on separate branch with multiple people at a time. Let's see whenever it happened. What happened? Everything is online. Okay, one thing that I will do right now is remove private, so you can access it, anyone who wants it. Let's see whenever I can actually do it. Okay, now everyone can see it. Okay, it's public. Another thing I will do it, and you will see why. I will change it to my username, which is this thing. .github. I think I wrote it correctly. And what should happen now, I'm not sure whenever it happens instant or in 10 minutes. We didn't, but Git, not GitHub, but GitHub. And it won't work because I wrote wrong name there. Happens. Let's try one more time. Settings. GitHub. My gut feeling says this is wrong. So what should eventually happen? That whole page will replace it. Let's check within a few minutes. And until then, I'm going to respond on some questions and comments. Can I open it in Video Studio? Yes, you can use any code editor that you want. There are no limitations. Then, will you send a link of GitHub? Yes, it will be accessible together with the recording of this. Then, I think this is too fast for those who've never done this. Of course it is. I mean, when I used to teach this in courses, it took 2 weeks to show, like to actually learn all those things I just showed you in an hour. So this was just one simple project with all the vanilla, but it actually takes more time to do it. And this is actually the reason why we are not doing anything online, like as a workshop, but you get those demos so you can actually take your own time, learn some of that stuff over the weekends, because it's too much to cover. And so I had at some point the slide, I might not find it now, but what to expect from whole seminars. So I did just a small demo of how a very simple project works. You will learn more about writing effective CSS next time. Then after that, you will learn about CSS frameworks. Then you will have a separate lecture for JS, JavaScript frameworks, mobile applications, accessibility, all those topics. And if we focus on this only front-end basics, we won't be able to give you all the tools. So the whole goal is give you these projects. This is not learning point. This is not the whole lecture. Please use it just a starting point to understand how those things work, and spend some time learning more about them, because we really want to not, instead of going deep into one technology, give you this whole set of different tools and technologies to use. So let's see whenever this works now. And it doesn't. No questions, no further questions. Then I actually managed to fit in 1.5 hours. Amazing. Okay, we have a question. Nice. All right. So what's your question? How to add another HTML site with JS code? What do you mean by that?
Hi. I mean, more like you can make a link to another. If you make your portfolio or something, then you have more sites like home and about me or something like that.
Yes.
I know how to like link them, but I want to know how to make it with JavaScript. Maybe you can show it if it's not very difficult. Then
yes, we can. Find where did I left off. So this is going to be a bit tricky. So it's not actually tricky. It's just coding always real time. that's the part that's tricky. So we had this website somewhere. Before I continue, there's one more question. Is GitHub a common place to host your projects for employee to see? Yes, and as someone who has hired more than one person as well, I can really confirm it's one of your best selling points, and it doesn't even have to be something very complicated, but knowing that you keep your GitHub account active, that's a good sign. Even better if you contribute to other projects. There are those open source projects, or that you create your own things. But really, I recently, there were two equal candidates. Me personally, I like the one who had a GitHub account better, even though the GitHub account was only a collection of forks. So fork, what is fork? That means when somebody creates a code and you create the duplicate of it to work with, but it's linked to the original one. So you have created the fork. And that person's account, it was full of those forks, and still it meant that he knows his way around development. He will know how to work with GitHub, and he's interested in technologies. It's similar like adding skill to work with shell script, scripting terminals and all those things in C as well. It's not mandatory, but it really helps. Yes, but whenever GitHub or any other location, GitHub is most popular. I think that was so when I checked it for the when I checked it a few months ago. GitLab, I think, is second most popular. I personally really like GitLab, both for my personal projects and for company-wide solutions. There's also Bitbucket or anything else, and it doesn't matter where do you have it. I showed GitHub for two reasons. First of all, it's most popular, and second of all, I hoped I would show you a fancy demo where this would work, but it doesn't. So that's the second reason. Okay, adding a button with script. So let's do it like this. Let's learn something new. What can we do? Okay, let's add it here. I will create a span. Underline. Let's stay with underline. So I have this one element. I know how to select because it has its own DOM. Actually, those are also called DOM elements. I'm sure whenever I mentioned it. So it's underlined. It could actually be span or anything else. And then I will add ID. ID is something that in document, it's only visible once, it's one time. ID should be unique. Whereas class, you could add it to many things. But let's use ID right now. And then in my code, I will write document, get element, but not by class name, but element by ID. Clickable. Add event listener. I think I'm recalling it right. On click. We will need a function. Let's see whether this is right. Oh, it actually worked. Okay, my memory didn't fail me this time. Cool. So right now we can catch this event. And what we will do, location, ref. Oh, we need windows. Yes. We are doing something with our window. We can do something with this location. ref. I better check it. Yeah, it is right. What's wrong with it? Yes, and that's it. So you catch event on which you want to do something, and then you execute Windows location ref. Another way how to use the Windows location ref would be console. See inspect. So if I click it, I got my, let's turn off the blinking, I guess. So now once I, someone raised a hand. Someone raised a hand. Why did you raise a hand? Please write it. So yes, now on click, I can see my location. And when you have this fancy project and you want, you have one script everywhere. Let's do it like this. Your location. And you could write if location starts with, well, this is not an actual code, this is an example, but if location contains campaign text, something, you could add this logic, for example, add specific cookie to this person. That would be one way to use location. Huge thank you for bearing up with this, this huge amount of information for our first seminar. And I wish you the best of luck with learning front end.